Hey, what's up, guys? So yeah, I decided, I'm sure there's plenty of these on YouTube and the internet at this point, but I still want to get my own thoughts of Transformers: The Last Night. Starring Mark Wahlberg, Laura Haddock from Guardians of the Galaxy. She played Peter Quill's mom. Um, Peter Cullen is Optimus Prime. You got Sir Anthony Hopkins, among others. John Turturro is back, which literally no one asked for, and you also got Josh Duhamel reprising his role as Lennox from the first three movies, and the movie actually starts out. It even has like a cameo from Stanley Tucci. I mean, even though he was playing Joshua Joyce, the tech guru from Part Four, who was helping like melt down the Transformers and reverse engineer them to make his own Transformer drones for the military. Michael Bay had him play another character here. He played the role of Merlin in a flashback to the medieval times when, these different Transformer knights were, who formed the Transformer known as Dragonstorm, helping fight alongside King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and Merlin was this drunken fraud who was given the power of the staff, which is just another Transformers MacGuffin to help, which locked onto his DNA and helped him command Dragonstorm. But basically, I mean, like I said, it was more Stanley Tucci chewing the scenery, but given the nice little cameo and considering medieval times, and you feel like people acting who do give performances during this era, so you know it's kind of theatrical anyway. His hamminess here worked here a lot better than did Age of Extinction. Now, before everybody starts to jump to the conclusion and starts saying like, and starts thinking like, oh my god, I think that I actually like this movie. I didn't. I'm just gonna go over the positives, and I'm gonna make it as short and sweet as possible, and go over all the problems I have with this movie, because I will go as far as to say that not only did this make Age of Extinction look better to me, but this is the most frustrating I ever had watching a Transformers movie since Revenge of the Fallen. I mean, the positives were, Kate Yeager, Mark Wahlberg is less over the top, wasn't as over the top as before, wasn't trying to sound more intelligent and hit you over the head with this whole like, I'm an inventor, I'm an inventor, I'm an inventor. It was more of him looking like, rocking the mullet, shooting things, blowing stuff up, and just being an action star, unless of trying to sound intelligent, which I appreciated. Another positive was that it had more narrative structure than some of the previous ones. I mean, the movie was written by, I wish I could remember their name. I think it was like Ken Nolan and Matt Holloway were among them, and the story. I mean, they were the screenplay. The story was constructed by Akiva Goldsman. I mean, these were people who have worked on movies like Iron Man, Black Hawk Down, and A Beautiful Mind. And Laura Haddock, I mean, she was sexualized a little bit. She played a British professor of history. They had her sporting a cocktail dress. She was giving a tour to her students at a history museum with her hair in a bun, glasses, and this like button-down white shirt that kind of makes you. Then while I was watching this, I was just kind of thinking, you kind of isn't this kind of isn't this the part where you feel like you're watching a Pornhub video and she's trying to she's trying to talk to one of her students about failing. It's like, oh, I'm trying to get a passing grade. It's like, well, you gotta fuck my brains out for in order to get an A, or something like that. Even Mark Wahlberg like called her out for when they first met up about how you're a professor and you're like rolling around in like a cocktail dress, and her boobs are being with her boobs out, and with her, cleavage, and and like the first hour of this was like pretty solid. It just felt like I said a more narrative structure, like the part where they had like Lennox being part of this whole Transformer response force, was basically filling the role of Cemetery Wind from Age of Extinction, where they're hunting down Transformers, and now they're capturing and destroying them. But you never really got to see like much of the conflict, inner conflict about having to work with this military force, and having to work against his former friends, the Autobots, because like they have this like really stupid thing where it's just like they basically put a tracker on Bumblebee and they follow him back to the Cage junkyard where him, where the both where Cade, Bumblebee, Hound, Crosshairs, Drift, and Grimlock are like hiding out because they're all fugitives. Even Cade can't even talk to his daughter. I mean, he can make like phone calls, but he can't like respond. He can only listen to her at the other end because the government can like use voice recognition to track him down. Um, God, what else? Like Optimus Prime, he wasn't in it for very much, but it's like whenever he was in it, like you realize like how much his presence was missed because he must have like a lot, and he brought like so much gravitas to the movie that was lacking. Even not even like Anthony Hopkins could do, sadly. Um, it was kind of cool. Kay was able to, worst case scenario, when they were being tracked down to their location by the TRF, the Transformers Response Force. They were able to coordinate an attack plan where it's like Cade and everybody else, Cade and Jared Carmichael, his employee, who's like a designated sidekick character to him, like T.J. Miller was, did not need to be in this movie. Were like trying to escape, and they had set up the explosions in the nearby town to like take out the Decepticons, who Megatron and Barricade had made a deal with in order to get or to try to get the location of a talisman that a dying Transformer, like he got it from like a dying Transformer in a sealed off location of Chicago. They had like Transformer remains. It was basically destroyed, and there was these like stupid ass kids who would like wandered there, and that's how you have Isabella Moner was there, who was coming to save them, and was talking to this Transformer and friends with. She's orphaned from the Battle of Chicago, but she only holds a grudge against the Decepticons, and she was trying to rescue them because she's living there with like Canopy and Squeaks, the former which is killed by the TRF. Trying to save these kids, like they're just they just show up for that one scene and disappear. Isabella just shows up for hangs around Mark Wahlberg because he and Bumblebee come to their aid when they get overwhelmed by like drones that the TRF are doing for like anybody who trespasses in that area. And she doesn't really do anything in the first act besides try to help repair Bumblebee's voice from what is this, like a Steve Buscemi bot named Day Trader who presumably provides all like the weapons to the Autobots and Cade, and they try to use. But other than that, she's kind of this like tag along kid, and I mean, hell, the Dinobot, she's barely in this. She kind of exits stage left in the first act. And then in the third act, when they have to like rally the troops for the final battle, she only comes back because she's like, "Oh hey, can I come along with you guys?" And they're just like, "Okay, sure." And then she doesn't really contribute anything. There's even this part where Cade and the TRF and Vivian are trying to like halo onto this landmass of Cybertron to retrieve the staff, and they find her and Squeak stowed away on board, and Mark Wahlberg's like, "What are you guys doing here?" And she responds without any irony or sarcasm, "I don't know." She has no reason to be there. She was just to get this kids to come to the movie. That being said, Vivian, who's played by Laura Haddock, is the best female lead this franchise has to offer because she finds out that she's a descendant of Merlin, and she had this relationship with her dad that was like that was kind of complicated, and turns out that she's a descendant of Merlin. She's the only one that can control the Merlin staff because she shares DNA with Merlin. So, and she comes across as very strong and confident. She's like on equal footing with Mark Wahlberg, who, and one of the most disappointing twists in this movie, turns out that Optimus Prime and none of the knights from the and none of the Cybertronian knights are the last night of the title of the movie. It's Mark Wahlberg. He's the one that can control the talisman given to him from a dying transformer that crash landed in Chicago, and you know Anthony Hopkins goes on this whole thing about and that's why Jared Carmichael and Isabella disappear, because it's like, oh, you got to come. Cogman shows up and says, oh, you got to come with me, you and Bumblebee. And it's like, if these other people stay with you, they're just going to put them in danger. And they talk about how he fits this criteria of a last night of have, because he has integrity, of courage, integrity, and he's chaste. The latter, they put more emphasis on the latter and just say like, oh, well, you haven't gotten laid in, you know, they haven't got had sex in a long time, so that's close enough to being pure instead of just being like, pure of heart. And they go with that. And I mean, the one other positive is like when, and just like, and that's the thing about between this big difference between this and the Fast and the Furious movies. Besides the Fast and the Furious movies having more likable characters, I mean, both these franchises are like, both like silly and stupid as hell. But at least like for the former, they do it without a sense of, they do it with like a sense of irony and like very like tongue in cheek, and they don't take themselves seriously as these like dumb popcorn flicks, as opposed to Transformers, which does stupid shit without any sense of irony, such as when Anthony Hopkins relying on John Turturro's character, who's taking refuge with the Wreckers, the NASCAR Transformers from Dark of the Moon in Cuba, and and the the latter keeps bugging the former about wanting to go play beach volleyball, and suntan, while the other is just like talking about using like goat scrotum analogies and using him as an informant to find out about why the Transformers keep coming to Earth. And between the phone and he just wants to be part of this like secret society of humans protecting the history of the Transformers, or trying to keep it a secret. Just because it's like, oh, he's been in 3 of these movies, interacted with them, he deserves to be a part of it. Still a pain in the ass, and still not funny. And they're actually called the Witwickens, which I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be tongue in cheek to the whole like Witwicky, and which is also kind of jarring when you actually see Anthony Hopkins' study of like all these different historical figures who played a role in interacting and protecting the Transformers. When you have like Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, the Wrights brothers. Apparently the Transformers were involved in the Underground Railroad, and Sir Anthony Hopkins, he plays a guy named Sir Edmund Burton, who recognizes Bumblebee because Bumblebee has actually been on Earth for years and actually helped the Allies fight the Nazis in World War II. And those are the cool little tidbits, how connected they are to the history. But it's kind of jarring that in the same study he has that like really derpy ass photo of Sam Witwicky, like his eBay profile picture from part 1 up there, because like his grandfather, I guess, when he found Megatron in the Arctic, he was actually became a member of that society. And doing this whole and there's like a lot, and like there's it's like first one has some decent action scenes, second act is more exposition, and there's a lot of exposition to the point where it's just like it becomes a very boring movie. And there's this moment where they have like ominous music swelling when Anthony Hopkins is giving an explanation, and then you find out that Cogman was playing like piano, like pipe organ, like piano organ, like kind of like Phantom of the Opera thing, which I mean, I can't say it's like the worst joke in the movie, especially considering if this was like a Joss Whedon project, and had better comedic timing, and they only did that joke once, I think it would be more like a laugh out loud moment. As a more tongue in cheek thing, and then Anthony Hopkins, like, I wouldn't even say he was going to give it a good performance, but it was definitely something to behold. Like, And Cogman was basically supposed to be kind of this comic relief. He was basically this like butler to Burton, but he was basically had like these like these like really violent tendencies. It was like kind of like beat up on Mark Wahlberg, and they had this bullshit moment where the fact that it's like Crosshair's trying to fight him, but was able to like bend his finger and like bend it in half or something, and like subdue Crosshairs instantly, which is like he's an average size. The Transformer who's an average size human, so I didn't understand that. And it's like weird to the point where it's like there's even this like they're even like have like Hot Rod, and eventually have like the TRF finds them in London. There's this car chase that involves Vivian, Cade, Bumblebee, and Hot Rod, and they're being chased down by the police, and it's like they have this scene with Cogman and Hopkins are being chased down by the police, and where they're like, Cogman's like shooting off a tire of a cop car, and Anthony Hopkins is flipping them off to the fact that you would have half expected them to be jamming out to "Fuck the Police" by NWA during that whole thing, and eventually it gets to the point where you have to talk to the Prime Minister, and he's talking to the cops, and he refers to them as dickhead. Okay, dickheads. So go through the old entrance, and he's like telling the Prime Minister to shut up, and he threatens his security with a pocket watch that killed Hitler if they just don't let him have his piece. And basically the plot, like the biggest plot twist, the craziest absurd plot twist besides Cade being the last knight, is the idea that, as Quintessa says, she's captured Optimus Prime, who basically, when he flew away from Earth at the end of Part 4, he basically ran out of power and became frozen, was just drifting in space. Cybertron is approaching Earth, and the gravity caused him to land back on the remains of Cybertron and be brainwashed by Quintessa, and saying that they need to get Merlin's staff to drain Earth of its power, which goes by another name, Unicron. Planet Earth formed around the fan favorite, planet-eating, inactive transformer known as Unicron. The mass, like if you look at the poster with Bumblebee, that's the remains of Cybertron, and it kind of just touches down on Earth, kind of like the massive ass alien ship from Independence Day Resurgence, and at least part of it touches down on Earth, and basically, horns of Unicron are growing out of the planet Earth, which means he's active again because Quintessa is bringing Cybertron there to drain him of his power, to revitalize Cybertron. And basically, like I said, Bumblebee knows he has a tracker on him and does nothing to remove it. So it's basically, there's no much conflict between Lennox and his TRF squad. It's just basically them following them without question throughout the entire 2.5 hours. This has like the least amount of screen time I've probably seen in a very long time from the Transformer since Revenge of the Fallen. Bumblebee is the one who's just who's in it the most often, and there's even like a weird like when like the Decepticons, like Megatron, Barricade, make a deal with a TRF to release like their boys from a prison, and it involves like Mohawk and Nitro Zeus and some other Decepticon that held captive. Mohawk ends up being this like racist caricature who luckily gets killed off in the battle from the first act. The Decepticons are kind of just like like in previous movies in the Transformers, just background fodder. They eventually find like an alien ship through this submarine, like a Transformer submarine. While they're on the submarine, Cogman picks up on the sexual tension between Vivian and Cade, and there was this like stupid scene. This is the thing about like, why are we focused so much on the humans? Like, I don't need like stupid jokes with John Turturro or Jared Carmichael or Vivian, who has like horny grandmother, like a horny grandmother and aunts and a mom who just like listening in when they're trying to find clues to Merlin's staff when they're going through the dad's study and they think they're like having rough sex upstairs and like listening in. Like I don't need that. That's just cliched and weird. Um, and it's like they finally get to the ship. Optimus Prime shows up, and basically, if you see the battle between Bumblebee and Optimus Prime, who in that moment is Christ and Nemesis Prime by Quintessa. If you've seen any of the trailers, you've seen like 98% of the fight, and it was nice that it was like on this ship that was emerging from underwater. That was like a nice change of just this fighting and destroying a city. Um, and it's not until like Bumblebee finally gets his voice back in the heat of the moment that it snaps Optimus Prime out of his trance. But then Megatron shows up and steals the staff, saying like, "Oh, I knew you would let Quintessa down, but I will finish what you started." Which makes you wonder, like, why did Quintessa even need to like go through the trouble of brainwashing Optimus Prime if Megatron was already working for her and was already more than willing to do his dirty work of his own accord? Which again, because of the criticism from Age of Extinction, I feel like this film backpedaled with Megatron playing second fiddle, less screen time with the Autobots, and the Transformers being cannon fodder, background fodder in their own movies. Too much focus on the humans, bad jokes. And also the thing is that even when before I even saw the movie, I mean I know like I got shit for this online when people were thinking like, well, it's a Michael Bay Transformers movie. Were you really expecting this to be good? No, I expected it to at least be like entertaining to like, some extent because Age of Extinction actually got me excited about this franchise again for the first time in years. And even though I noticed the marketing campaign, there were like so many trailers and commercials that it became transparent that they were going to have like stupid, too much focus on the humans and bad jokes, and even the aspect ratio is just from watching clips online like kept changing. Like one scene it would be like widescreen when it was like when the camera was on K. Then they would use IMAX for when they were get Vivian's close up, and it's just like it kept going back and forth like that. And I'm just like, why would you do this for a conversation? And it's like, why wouldn't you put more care and just like, well, we're gonna film this in IMAX, so let's just do like two IMAX cameras here, or let's do an IMAX camera here and do an IMAX cam and like a regular camera there and that in like the same room without like any kind of like care, and just think like, why can't you just do it like for the big action sequences instead of just going back and forth through just like mundane stuff? Like it makes no sense. Like, and even I was watching a review of this before I even saw this movie, which I saw for free. I did not pay money for it, and I mean, it's not like it's doing well anyway, or would have made a difference. But it's like it was almost like a more watered down, boring version of everything that's come before, and it featured aspects of this plot where it's like, oh, well, Decepticons are trying to revitalize Cybertron, um, by destroying the Earth in the process. Let's copy and paste that idea there. It's like, oh, we have it's like it just felt, I don't know. The more I think about it, it just kind of felt like a watered down, crappier version of Dark of the Moon. But it was just like even like you can even tell Bay was like even so like disinterested in it, like to an extent that it's like he just didn't care. And basically there was this whole fight over at Stonehenge where like they rally the troops, and of course they don't even bother to get any of the Dinobots back. And there was like too many like jump cuts when they were fighting on that landmass of Cybertron. And I mean, I mean, some of the things were like beautifully shot, especially Optimus Prime, like the slow motion shot of him using his sword to decapitate all the Infernocrons, and him riding on Dragonstorm to the point where they're talking about trying. The military wants to decide they want to like nuke the huge landmass of Cybertron to prevent the staff from draining the Earth of its power, of Unicron's power, and destroying everything. And like I was saying, the operation's over. It's like we're not giving up on Prime. He'll show up, and that maybe and that's that's the moment where it's like the movie became less aggravating to watch because I realized it's like, holy shit, they're doing bookends. They're doing parallels to the medieval fight where everybody's gonna give up on Merlin for almost not showing up with Dragonstorm, and they're gonna do the same thing with Optimus Prime. We're just like, oh, we're not gonna give up on Optimus Prime. He'll be here, and I was like, holy shit! They're poison storytelling. Baby steps, Michael Bay. Baby steps, baby steps. And of course they save the day, but and they have this post credit scene where you think Quintessa's destroyed, but she takes on a human form and tries to trick humans into finding a way to help her like destroy Unicron, but. And there was also, and by the way, there was also this moment I didn't get where it's like, Anthony Hopkins showed up as well, and he was kind of like wandering around Stonehead like he was lost for some reason. I guess to act as a distraction to the Decepticons, and then, Megatron ended up killing him. And Squeaks had this cool moment where because he had a Decepticon arm from like beginning of as to repair himself from the first act, he ended up blowing up one of the cannons from the Decepticons, but I'm. I mean, I know these movies aren't good, and these are guilty pleasures, but for me at best. But at this point, I'm just like, I feel like this movie just fucking broke me. It really broke me, and I'm ready to just about jump on this whole like let the franchise die bandwagon. Then more and more people are jumping on. And maybe it may happen because it only made like $70 million in its 5-day opening, which is like the lowest it's ever, substantially lower than any of the previous movies, where you usually make at least like $100 million in its opening weekends. And so now it's like it's really got to rely on international box office to save its ass, but just. Fuck. I don't know. I mean, the Bumblebee spin-off movie is going to be directed by a guy named Travis Knight, and I don't know how much creative control Bay is going to have, whether he's going to produce it or not, but I'm just like... Look, I mean, I even watched a review from a guy named John Roca from Collider Video. He enjoyed the hell out of this movie, and... there's people I'm following, that guy I follow on Instagram who like he's seen the movie twice now. He enjoyed the hell out of it, and all I say is more power to them because I wanted to like this movie. I really did. This had potential, and once again, it's another Transformers movie that had potential and it was squandered. And I'm just like feel this browbeaten at this point. I've reached my endurance and tolerance level for this franchise. Anyway, guys, is there anything you did like about this movie at all? Do you think it was crap too? Like how would you rank the Transformers? A better question, how would you rank all 5 Transformers movies if you've seen them? Or how do you rank the live action Transformers movies based on how many of you've seen? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.